Hey guys, welcome back to Buzzer to Buzzer. All right, guys. So the eighth week of the 2020 NFL season has elapsed, and per the usual, we're going to be going over our top five key matchup predictions, which we made last week. And if you've not already checked out that video, it'll be in the top right hand as a card. But without any further ado, let's get towards our analysis. All right, guys, the first game which we're going to be going over is going to be the one between the now still undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers winning 28-24 in a nail-biting match against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, guys, these Steelers keep on proving the improbable, winning yet another game, improving, and the only undefeated team in the NFL right now, making sure that people put some respect on their name. Our thoughts on the Steelers game.
This is the first of five matchups I got wrong this week. So I just want to say, I guess the Steelers are truly legit. Lamar Jackson has shown that he doesn't win in high-profile games, whether it's the Chiefs in the playoffs or in the regular season. Right now against the Steelers, I think Lamar Jackson has a primetime issue, and hopefully it's become a bigger issue for the Ravens moving forward.
The biggest thing I got from this game is that Lamar is not. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. In this league, you got to be able to throw to win the game, right? You can't. You got Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, right? They can run, but they can also throw the ball. Lamar Jackson, he's more of a runner that can throw, and that's not going to win games. So the Steelers found a way to shut him down at the end of the game, and I think more teams are going to continue to do that throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't even think the issue is that Lamar Jackson can't perform in primetime games. I just think the issue is that, as Arden said, his arm is just not that great. It's average at best. His running game is a strength, and a lot of teams are figuring it out and are forcing him to throw. And as we saw in the Steelers game yesterday and against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago, when it matters, he doesn't have an accurate pass and a deep ball, whether it be slants or short routes. Like, his arm is just not that great. And for the Ravens to go far and potentially make it to the Super Bowl, I think that he needs to do better as a QB and get a better arm.
Yeah, exactly. We saw it go to the last play of Lamar Jackson trying to make that touchdown pass into the end zone. And eventually the Steelers defense, like all season, has been proving to be stellar. I mean, that interception yesterday by Robert Spillane as well. Lamar Jackson having a not so good game with the two interceptions he threw throughout the game. But also something we've talked about in the past, whenever Big Ben can be average. I mean, he didn't have a amazing game by the numbers, throwing for under 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they got that offense rolling with that rookie Chase Claypool. He is looking really good as well. That defense coming in hand again. And it's time that people and we start putting some more respect on these Steelers' names. All right, guys, so the next game which we're going to be talking about is going to be the one we predicted between the New Orleans Saints and the Chicago Bears. Now, guys, this was a thriller game going into overtime. My, oh my, we had a chance to win the game, but the Saints did come out on top, winning 26-23. Now, guys, we even got to see a little bit of our Mitch Trubisky come into the game for a 4-yard play. But ultimately, our offense, although it was stellar in the first half, that second half, we just could not find the rhythm. Our thoughts on this game?
I picked the Saints going into this game. But to give the Bears credit, it was a lot closer than I thought it would be. I thought that they would get blown out. But I guess with Allen Robinson being in and Michael Thomas being out for the Saints, it was kind of like an advantage for the Bears. But, the Saints offense, it's not incredible, obviously, because they have a lack of receivers right now. But it wasn't horrible. Drew Brees just did all he had to do. And the Bears offense, it wasn't bad. Nowhere near as bad as a Rams game. But, they kind of got it going late third quarter, fourth quarter. But then I guess they just couldn't finish it off. And I think that's something that they have to improve on, their overall offense in general.
When you look at the Bears Saints, right? I think the game came down to that one drive with the Bears after the Saints punted the ball in overtime. You got to go score on that drive. You have a chance to make a field goal to win the game, and your drive stalls. That's, I think, completely on Matt Nagy and the offense. I mean, you got to figure out a way to win that game because your defense did their job. They got the stop. Unfortunately for the Bears, their offense couldn't do anything. That's been the theme the whole season. I think it's going to continue.
Yeah, this is the second of the 5 games I got wrong this week. But looking at it, the Bears, they had a lot of problems coming out of the Rams game. Was it the play calling? Was it quarterback play? Or was it the offensive line? I think David Montgomery had a much better game than he did against the Rams this week against the Saints. And I think the problem comes down to when we have good play calling and we have good quarterback play, the O-line is a problem that stagnates. And I know there's a lot of injuries right now on that O-line, but that is definitely a critical place that the Bears need to improve on right now at the trade deadline and definitely during the offseason.
Yeah, exactly, for sure, Harsh. This game proved that David Montgomery can be a really good running back. I mean, the way he was breaking tackles and the O-line was not even there to be seen. But got to give credit. Nick Foles and Matt Nagy, they for sure got some rhythm going this game. Honestly, I feel like that one play after that Javon Wims incident, we had that drive. The momentum was on our favor, and that just completely sucked the life out of us. Nick Foles throwing it for a pick later that drive just completely ruined our tempo and disallowed us to win that game. Honestly, in that fourth quarter, it looked like that we had a good chance to win this game. But even in OT, we just couldn't pull it off. And this upcoming game now is a must win for us to win against the Titans coming up. All right, guys, and the third game which we predicted was between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. Now, guys, the Raiders did end up winning 16-6 in a relatively low-scoring game, with the Raiders improving their record to 4-3. Now, we didn't see any stellar quarterback performances from Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield, but we did see a stellar performance from Joshua Jacobs, the running back of the Raiders. All right, I'm going to get started with you. Your thoughts on the Browns' loss?
Well, I mean, this Browns offense looked completely inept yesterday. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They weren't able to run the ball, which is their strength, and then based off that, they weren't able to throw the ball downfield. I think the weather played a really big part in this game too, and they needed to run the ball. The Raiders defense, credit to them, they got the job done. But I think that's why they won this game.
I think we're looking at games and expecting them to be 30-point matchups. I think you can't expect that reasonably from any game. I think even the Buccaneers had a very low scoring game this year, right? Even though, the Seahawks are really the only exception to having a high powered offense every single game. And I think it has to go to the Browns defense. I think when Myles Garrett doesn't play good, the rest of the defense falters. I think Myles Garrett was on limited snaps this game, and the Browns defense looked completely hopeless. I mean, the Raiders were going everywhere. And I know the stats say they only put up 16 points, but even then, when your offense only scores 6 points, you got to play complementary football and make up for that in some way.
As inconsistent as the Raiders are this entire season, I do have to give credit to them. They got the job done, which me and Brown predicted. And going over to the Browns, I just feel like Baker Mayfield, I mean, this man is super inconsistent every single week. Kind of like the Bears offense, honestly. Baker is just, I don't know. Sometimes he does amazing against, as we saw the Bengals last week, and then now against the Raiders, who don't even have a great defense, as we mentioned last week. I think that their defense would not be a problem for the Browns offense. But somehow, they just didn't play that good football game. It was a low-scoring game. And as Harsh said, I guess, their offense, and they just need to have complementary football in terms of their offense and defense.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at with Odell Beckham Jr. gone for an injury, the Browns, you got to look at Jarvis Landry or Harrison Bryant. One of these two wide receivers, they got to step up and take the place of OBJ. And this game, like Harsh mentioned, it was a relatively low-scoring game. And although we can't expect it every week, the Browns got to get their offensive ball rolling again, whether it be through Baker Mayfield or Kareem Hunt, even put on a show. But this game, they just got outplayed by the Raiders defense, and Joshua Jacobs finally coming back, having a nice running night as well. All right, guys, so the fourth game which we predicted was between the Indianapolis Colts and the Detroit Lions, in which the Colts ended up winning 41-21 with a stellar performance from Phillip Rivers, throwing for 3 touchdowns and around 250 passing yards as well. Now, guys, the Lions did have a fight in this game, but in that fourth quarter, they just got outplayed and outscored 21-7. Our thoughts on this game?
Yeah, you just had it right on. I mean, it was actually a pretty close game up until that fourth quarter. I think turnovers killed the Lions there. They had a pick, which the Colts scored off of. And, I mean, that completely killed their momentum. The Lions were playing pretty good football. But I think Colts overall, their defense is obviously solid, and their offense is very good. So I think that's why the Colts won this game.
Not even the fourth quarter. I think the turning point was actually the second quarter. The first quarter, Lions scored 7 touchdown. Colts didn't score any points. But in the second quarter, the Colts scored 20 points while the Lions scored 0. So I think that was a big turning point in that game. Phillip Rivers did very well against the Lions defense. And I think that, after the Browns game against the Colts, a lot of people kind of thought that the Colts defense was not that great and it was overrated. But I do have to give them credit. I think they played good defense last night against Matthew Stafford. And the Lions are a good team, but they're just gonna get the job done against a team like the Colts.
Yeah, I guess if we're talking about turning points, I think the turning point was Matthew Stafford's fumble. I think when Darius Leonard, coming back from his leave of injury, I think he comes back, forces the fumble. It changes the tide. I think the Colts should scored 3 times after that and put the game simply out of reach. When the defense establishes dominance on a critical drive, even if it was in the third quarter, it just completely changes the tide of the game and just let the Colts run all over the Lions after that.
Exactly. We saw a pretty good matchup between Phillip Rivers and Matthew Stafford throughout those first 3 quarters. But just that fourth quarter turn of events, the Colts just simply outplaying the Lions, scoring 21-7. It just completely changed the momentum. We saw Phillip Rivers having a stellar game at the end as well. And also got to give credit to the run game of the Colts and their defense. Jordan Wilkins has been proving to be a good running back and a solid running back for the Indianapolis Colts. And they've gone 5-2 now. All right, guys, now moving on towards our fifth matchup, which we predicted, that being between the Seattle Seahawks against the San.
We don't know if DK Metcalf in one game he shows up. One game he doesn't.
He's very inconsistent.
What do you mean?
Look at his game by game stats. Look at his game by game stats.
He hasn't showed up for one game.
It was one game.
My boy.
So
Yes,
50 yards of showing up. 50 yards of showing up.
My boy. Yes.
Is 50 yards showing up? Is 50 yards showing up? Answer the question. No, answer the question. Stop saying my boy. Bring up numbers. No, bring up numbers.
There's no DK side.
Francisco 49ers, in which the Seahawks did end up winning 37-27 with, of course, an impeccable performance by Russell Wilson, throwing for 4 touchdowns, nearly 260 yards, keeping his name number 1 in that MVP race. But also, guys, we did see some unfortunate news with Jimmy Garoppolo getting injured and potentially being out for a pretty long period of time. But then in came in Nick Mullins. Did not know this guy before this game, but guys, he came in with the game face on. Had a pretty good performance for coming off the bench like that. Thrown for 2 touchdowns, nearly 250 yards. I'm going to start off with a B. Your thoughts on the Seahawks improving to 6-1.
With this game, that actually gives me a lot of confidence in the Seahawks. The NFC West is definitely the best division in this whole league, and I really thought that it would be a closer game. I think the fact that it was 10 points is kind of like garbage time in the fourth quarter. But per usual, Russell Wilson, amazing as you said, around MVP front runner. DK Metcalf, we're gonna talk about him. 2 touchdowns, 16 receptions, 160 yards. A monster performance. But, regardless of their offense, I really do, and I don't think I'm ever going to say this again, that their defense, the Seahawks defense, the first half, I didn't really see that good of defense this whole year from them. They played amazing. They got a fumble off the 49ers running back, and then Jimmy G with that pick. I'm pretty sure Jimmy G, before he got injured, had 80 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. They really locked him up. They locked the whole offense up. And then when Nick Mullins came in, he did surprisingly well, got a couple touchdowns. But at the end of the day, a win is a win, and the Seahawks are 6-1, which is all I care about.
Crazy part to me is that I don't even think the Seahawks have hit their ceiling yet, because they're getting Jamal Adams back next week. They're getting Carlos Dunlap next week. And, their defense is going to play much better with those 2 players in. And you look at their offense, they pretty much put up 30-plus points every week. So if they can just continue this, I think they can definitely go for a deep playoff run.
I think the Seahawks are a very interesting team on the offense. Either one week DK Metcalf looks amazing or Tyler Lockett looks amazing, and the other one's completely irrelevant the whole game. It's interesting to see how Russell Wilson manages to make it work with what seems like a wide receiver 1A and a wide receiver 1B. It's up to the defense who they're going to let torment them. Last week against the Cardinals, they let Tyler Lockett torment them. This week, the 49ers let DK Metcalf. When they play like that, the 49ers have 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. And it's crazy to see how Russell Wilson does this week in, week out. A clear front runner by far for the MVP conversation. And the Seattle Seahawks defense came up when they needed to.
Exactly. Can't say that too often for sure. But also give the credit to the boy, man, saying it from the jump. DK Metcalf coming out once again, bouncing back from that game, just like Abi and I said last week. Y'all were predicting, making some forecast out here, looking like some meteorologists who don't know what they're saying. DK Metcalf about to go into a slump. My gosh, DK Metcalf just proven the haters wrong once again. Getting for 2 touchdowns, 160 yards. But harsh to your point, it's something interesting which has happened throughout the season. we've seen very contrasting performances. On one night, if DK is about to pop off, then you don't really see Tyler Lockett in the picture. But like last week, if we saw Tyler Lockett have a stellar game, we didn't really see DK Metcalf in the picture. But I guess that's what just makes the Seahawks such a scary team, right? Russell Wilson got these two deadly options, and I think this can allow them to make a very deep playoff run.
Yeah, and one thing to add, going off that, Rayon, I'm very interested to see when the Seahawks, obviously, they're going to make the playoffs this year. I'm interested to see them go against two very elite cornerbacks. I want to see two elite wide receivers against two elite cornerbacks and see how that offense plays out against a defense like that.
Yeah. Also, I just want to add that with two great wide receivers like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I don't always it doesn't really make sense to me that like both of them have to go off. Like I feel like if one goes off, the other doesn't really have a big role in it. I feel like that's with any two wide receivers, with the exception of Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. But yeah, I think they are a really deadly combo this year, and it's great that Russell Wilson has two great wide receivers.
All right, guys. Well, that was quite the 8th week of the 2020 NFL season. Up on the screen are the cumulative record predictions with a B, a narrow lead over Arian in first place, with me and Harsh tied for third right now. It's going to be quite interesting to see how these next couple of weeks pan out, proving who is predicting the most accurate picks. As always, guys, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you once again for that 500 mark, guys. If you've not already checked out our 500 subscribers special Q&A, that'll be in the description down below. But guys, let's keep on getting there. Let's hit 600 by the end of the next week and keep on progressing. And always, guys, comment down below your main takeaways from these games. We saw quite the performances. Love hearing what you guys got to say. Take care, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.